I'm particularly delighted to that we have Mr. Wilson from the Safai Karamchari Andolan as a distinguished speaker in the midst of our conference. You know, we have to connect with and work with and draw inspiration from activists like him. But I have some, you know, a personal emotion seeing him because, you know, we were both born in Goldfields. And I don't know, for everyone who comes from Kola Goldfields, we think of it as somewhat of a special place. You know, it's a place where we, you know, we're more conscious of class than other things. You know, the workmen in the mines who had a very hard time, very poor conditions, very lowly paid. So there was a sense of solidarity of a class conscious kind, which was so strong that it obscured what is more common in other parts of the country, which is the consciousness of caste. The class perspective was stronger because of the nature of the town, the nature of the work, the mining community, and the way the contract labor was organized by the British mine, and so on. So and then there was the, you know, a kind of a, you know, what Gramsci calls you know, not traditional intellectuals, but an organic intellectuals, you know, people who came from Kolar Goldfields like Mr. Wilson and my late friend Jokin Arpudam. I mean, they are activists, but they are intellectuals. Because if you listen and read what they say, I mean, you know, it's as you know, intellectually worthy as reading you know, Max Weber, Karl Marx, or Antonio Gramsci, and it's a perspective that we get from this special kind of person, right? An activist who's also reflected upon why it is that they have to struggle against the kind of injustice that they are struggling against, and so that's a very important perspective, and anyone in a public policy school ought to be in close contact and draw inspiration from Mr. Wilson. You know, he, you know, I met him in the home of Justice Muralidharan at the conclusion of the Bhim Yatra that he undertook. That was for about over 125 days in about 500 districts, covering most of the states of India, on the eve of the 125th birth anniversary of Dr. Ambedkar. And it's poignant because, you know, we've got a worthy constitution in the drafting of which Dr. Ambedkar played a great part. But then it's a constitution with a vision, with a program, which is intended to transform this country from being a very segmented, caste-divided society into one which celebrates in its preamble, you know, fraternity. And now fraternity is something that we don't often talk about. We may talk about liberties and you know, freedoms of that kind, or even social justice. But fraternity is what Dr. Ambedkar was after. I mean, and you don't get that unless you transcend your narrow kind of associations with what has been the case in India, your particular kin group and your particular insider group, the community within which you marry, and regarding everybody else as others. To transcend that and to look upon all human beings as part of one. I mean, you know, Prime Minister is fond of quoting that phrase, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, but it's, you know, that's just a word, you know, an expression. True fraternity is when we transcend these these segmentations that we have, and our history in terms of how the Safai Karmacharis have been treated. The manuals, I mean, KGF was a place where this was very common, and the what was then called the sanitary board was pressurized into installing flush toilets in most of the places, and to try and reduce the number of places where there was dry latrines. I was, as a child, grew up witnessing witnessing some of these changes in a small measure. But our government, our parliament, 1993 abolished manual scavenging, but that law was never implemented. Again, there was another prohibition of employment as manual scavengers and the Rehabilitation Act in 2013, and then there was a Supreme Court decision about the continuing deaths of people in sewer lines and septic tanks, and ordering the government to give them compensation. But we are still, the struggle is still on, and in the forefront of the struggle we have this great leader. I think of him as my Talaivar, because we have to be in solidarity with this, right? And I have to, I can't overemphasize this. As an educational institution, as a public policy school, unless we are able to join hands, do what we can, maybe we are supposed to educate a new generation of students. How are we to inculcate in them that the preamble aspiration of fraternity is to be realized, right? This is our bounden duty. That's our moral obligation. And therefore, I'm very grateful while we have this sort of annual conference on economics and public policy and papers by scholars, that we have, we are graced with the presence of Mr. Wilson to speak to us for this reason, because none of this intellectual attainments and whatever we regard as scholarship really matters, as long as there are such palpable injustices in our face, and we, each one of us, has to do something about it, and help people who are so it's a problem that's resolvable. I mean, we are talking about going to Mars and landing spacecraft and satellites and so on, but our government in the city level, in each town and countryside, we don't mechanize and modernize the sanitation system, and this is a crying shame, and so we have to do something about it. We have to produce policy documents. We have to engage in advocacy. We must join hands with the Safai Karamchari Andolan and with the Mr. Wilson, and make a difference. Otherwise, there's not much point to all the learning and scholarship. So I welcome him to our conference as an intellectual, as an organic intellectual, as someone who feels it, right? I mean, we may mouth words and say nice things, but it has to come from the depth of one's heart. It has to be in our bones. And here is a man who says and speaks from that place. So over to you, Talaivar. I want to listen to you. We are all keen to hear you. Thank you.
You have to unmute yourself.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And it is always a privilege to talk to college students and all. But I can't consider you as a student because you are also involved in many things. And you are grown to the, for us students means only very high school, like Otherwise, you are all, in one way you are learning, in another way you are also involved or engaged in many things. And important thing, one more is Dr. Sudarshan, we were from the same place, and we draw also the spirit of the certain things, which is a very commonly the same. That we don't know why the place where we are all coming, we also look the world in the same way. We don't look at the world or the society in the very different way. We missed one thing which he already mentioned, that is the caste. Other than that, we are the place where we enjoyed the freedom so much, and we also experienced a kind of a fraternity. What he said, that which is lacking in the Indian society, which we enjoyed there. My inspiration and my mentor and the guru, I can say, Dr. Y. Moses and Dr. Sudarshan, they were very close friends. Both comes from the two different backgrounds. There is no connection at all in any way. The only thing is both come from the same place. Only one reason. But if you look, both of them, they are so close, and there you can't see that any difference. Despite of the so many differences in the birth and so many things they achieved in their life, but they still are look like a similar way to think, promote or mentor others, give the space for others, and not so greedy and not to achieve so many things and all. But whatever is a limited to go, I see so many similarities within the both. I don't know why it has happened. It is happened because of the place, society, or the leaders whom they have seen, or whatever. I don't know exactly. But I'm not mentioning their background, the different backgrounds, what it is, because which for them it is immaterial. But for the society, it is so important as on today. But they are almost like across the 60 years, definitely. So after 60 years, which means before 60 years, there was a place where there was an atmosphere where these two people grown together, although they come from the two different backgrounds. That is what is the true India. That is what we want, that true India. That is the India we want to all belong. And it is not taking two individuals as an example and talking about them, but the place where actually nurture this both together, whatever you are. So we have a dignity of labor also. Even if the doctor's son and the engineer's daughter and another carpenter's son, all together they play, and there is, you don't even feel that I am something, I am, no, there is nothing. They play like that. When we play, what we must have in a spirit of the player. I think that 100% the spirit of the player they carried and they played. So that is the way they lived also the life and led the life also. Something which we are missing nowadays, which is very disturbing. Something which is really missing. Why it is missed, I too don't know. We have to explore. We have to dig so deeply. Then we can understand. When we talk about the sanitation, definitely we have to think about the certain things in the sanitation. Such one important thing is, without talking about the caste and the discrimination, stigma, we talk about the sanitation. Sanitation is not just in a cleaning or anything. Sanitation actually is an important thing is pollution and purity. That we have to understand. It is not the cleaning. It is an actually polluting and the purity. So from there actually it comes. That is the reason in India everybody is not happily involved or want to do that. And we made certain people to clean. So when you make some people to do such kind of things, you tend to actually make bifurcations, classifications, all such things. One thing which we have to say that very clearly, institution of untouchability. So untouchability is a big institution. There is no vice chancellor, there is no any professors, no dean, nothing. But institution successfully, it is a running state. And the students every year joining. Whoever born in India, we automatically we will be joining in the institution of untouchability. And that there is a what? There are certain people become untouchables. There are certain people practice untouchability. We both are captive by the institution of untouchability. So you are maybe practicing, some are feeling that I am untouchable. But it is a kind of an just feel, not feeling. It is also restrict the many resources. If it is just feeling, I could have just relinquished and say that I am not untouchable. I can feel it very happily. But by just birth, being born in the family of the untouchable, so you will lose certain privileges. And you will never going to get that. And the rest of the society also look you in very differently. That the look, it makes you very uncomfortable. That the people who are practicing is not understanding that. That is what actually we have to deal now. The people who actually feel the practice the untouchability don't feel that how we are barbarically practicing this. How can I think like this? That is no conscious of how. Once it a consciousness gone to the zero level, you start practicing untouchability. Once you start practicing untouchability, there is a grades of untouchability. You will become a very raw kind of untouchability, a practice person. You are a practitioner. You say that directly, Chamar, Bangi log, why you are all like, you call by the caste names. They are the certain groups. There are certain people, they don't call very vulgar like, but they will practice in very different. Don't come close. You, why you are coming here? You can sit there. So you will show by your practices. And there are certain people, they do practice, they take all the privileges and they will say that there is no untouchability. They are very sophisticated. So they will say that, where is the untouchability now? Come to the Jindal and see my university. Where is the untouchability? Like you select some places and you say that you come here and see. You never go and see that where exactly the untouchability. You will then you call everybody to come. And it is there in Rashtrapati Bhavan, it is there in the Prime Minister's office, it is everywhere in the country. It is not the political statement, it is in a very sociological order, which we are all part of that we have to deal. And you feel that very boring. What is this subject? Which why we want to? Because when we become a captives of that, we don't realizing that. Both the ways, both we are all the actually captives of that. I also feel that I am untouchable. Even somebody may think me as an equal, but I do feel because the majority thinks I am untouchable. I do carry certain things. I have to come out of that. Otherwise, if I go to my place and I ask my people, what are you doing? So they will say that very simple in the Tamil, number one, or in Telugu, manapani, or in Hindi, wo hamara kaam. So hamara kaam matlab kya hai? So the community has internalized and known the scavenging, collecting the fecal matters as a job. They are not thinking it is a slavery. They are not thinking that it has to go out from me. They think that ye mera duty hai, mera karma hai. It is I have to do my duty. So this became a duty, a form of the untouchability, or the form of the atrocity, be made as a duty and thrown under certain people's mind and their head. Thereby, they are only doing their duty. And by fulfilling their duty, they may get wages here, and on the top, they may get the moksha. Both are there. In Kashmir, we went and we asked somebody. He is from the Watal community. So he was telling that, ये भगवान ने मुझे खुदा ने ये काम दिया, ये तो मैं करना ही पड़ता है. ये कितने करेंगे, इतने मेरा मोक्ष का प्राप्त हो जाए. So the poor man, he is talking about so philosophical. We think that the scavenger can't speak the philosophy, but the same scavenger is able to speak. Actually, we can think or understand that in another way. We made a scavenger to speak a philosophy which is going to give the 100% benefit to us. That philosophy we had made him to or her to understand and say that's the same way. So then children also think that yeah, this is this thing. And somebody says that everybody is scavenger, everybody touches their own cheek. So what is there? I am also. So how beautifully rationalized a kind of a form of the atrocity and made the people as a permanent captives. They don't even think that I have to come out. And we are pushed in such a level where they can't even think that I can come out because there is no hope near future. There are no people can talk to them, and people will come and show their sympathy on them in way how they'll say, "Oh, you are doing this. If you don't do this, how we will live? How we will get the roti? How your children can get the school fees?" All emotional things. This is the some civil society person comes and tells to the scavenging women. So how do you live? But actually the truth is, the person who is coming and telling, they are carrying some fear. What is that fear? If you don't clean this, how can I clean? Nobody else can clean. So everybody will die. So instead of tell the fact on her face, you will come and say that if you don't clean, how you will live? Somehow she will live. But actually, ultimately, the person who is going and showing a form of the sympathy cannot live without the scavenger. This is not I am saying. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi also said, the society can survive without anyone, but not without the scavenger. The bangi agar nahi hai to samaj aage jana bahut mushkil hai. Ye main nahi bol raha. It's Gandhi also said. So the role of the scavenger is made and glorified in such a way where they cannot even think for their liberation. They felt that this is an okay. The status we made in such a way nobody can break, think, talk, shout, cry. No, nothing happens. Everybody is in it is called a kind of a, what it is called. After cyclone, there is a silent light. So we made everything, made the one section of the bunch of the people as the captives. Now we enjoy the death silence. We don't talk. There are certain people who are also untouchables for the certain period. There is a certain period. If somebody dies in the family, so certain period, you are not supposed to do or allowed to do certain kind of rituals. Because that particular period, you have to be out. There with the Terror in some places, nowadays in some places, some whatever it is. And there are certain periods, some women also be out when there is a menstruation or something. In Nepal and some part of the country, even there. And people say that there is a temporary kind of a untouchability and there is a permanent kind of untouchability. But untouchability, to everybody we are all facing life. But it is not true. The untouchability is not permanent or temporary. Untouchability, which is comes from the birth. It is not for the event. I am a scavenger not because I am doing the something or other. I born into the family of the parents who does the scavenging, who did the scavenging. So that's the reason I'm a scavenger. People even now today they call me as a pangi. Pangi is not there calling me because I am doing the work. So that is what is an Baba Sahib Ambedkar said. Otherwise, there was a discussion on the Sabarmati Ashram. So why the only one section of the people only cleaning the shit across the country? That was the question raised by the Baba Sahib Ambedkar and many people. In Sabarmati Ashram, Gandhi and many people, and in many places, they started cleaning. And they said that now everybody is cleaning. Like during the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, people also said that now in India, everybody is cleaning. Politicians also cleaning. For the photo sake or for the sake of the video, whatever, but everybody is cleaning. But by doing this kind of things, they think that they are actually integrating everything and everybody becoming a community where there is a fraternity life. But they are actually doing an injustice to the people who are fighting against this. That they are not understanding. So when you are all cleaning in the Sabarmati ashram, Brahmin also doing the scavenging. So Ambedkar said very clearly, yes, of course, you are all doing, but none of the society people will call the person who is doing a scavenging in Sabarmati ashram as a bangi. But whereas person like a live example, I am telling Bezwada Wilson, who never did the scavenging in whole lifetime. So my mother's dream also that I should not hold the broom and sweep. That is the only one promise my mother asked me. So she asked me to show the hands. I showed my hands. She said that only one promise I want. In your lifetime, you should not hold the broom and go and sweep. The only one promise you must give to me. I said that what is there? It is not so big. But after a certain age, I understood that when I went to the employment exchange, the people who has taken my all certificates and they enrolled to the scavenging occupation in the Kolar Goldfield, same in my place. So then only I understood it is not so easy. I said that to my mother, but even if I don't apply also, the society offer me only this because my address says I am coming from the sweepers colony, Andhra line. So they felt that Andhra line, the people apply for only this. They apply. This is, I'm talking about the government of India, the employment exchanges, which is running by the state governments and the government. I'm not talking about any individual society or something. So I said to my mother something, but it is actually by practice, it is a very difficult. After coming over to Delhi also, people call me even now, Bezwada Wilson, jante hai. If the other person says that, wohi bangi hai. So they call even now, my identity easy to make me to understand is a bangi. I don't even think. Like somebody, some men usually, but they ask somebody, from some women, Deepa, which Deepa? They say that Deepa who is having the haircut. So they say just like that. So this is they don't even think that it is a patriarchal things, which we say, but you just passing remark like. So they also think that Bezwada will say clear identity is the bangi. You say that we are bangi pata nahi. So that is the identity. That is what is the Baba Sahib Ambedkar saying. Whether you are doing the scavenging, not doing the scavenging is not a matter here. For where you born, for who your parents are, and what they used to do, that becomes a major. How do you break this? That is the challenge in front of us. So are we going to, when I explain to you, the scavenger, and if I say that my mother, father also scavengers, unfortunately, if it comes to your mind, Bezwada Wilson, one broom, one bucket or something, there is something great problem with you. You have to test yourself. If you look, Bezwada Wilson scavenger also, you look like how Professor Sudarshan is sitting and happily listening. Likewise, one person is speaking. If that image is there, you are an average. You can definitely deal with that. Accessibility dealing is not a very simple. It is a very difficult. And people are dying in the sewage and septic tanks. But we don't even think about or talk about that. We don't even count. Why? So why so deep pits are there in the country even now? Why we are keeping? Twin pit, it is there. It's excellent. People say twin pit, it is not there. But okay. But people don't like to keep the pits close to house. Why? So male, actually, Swachh Bharat we projected as a protection of the dignity of the women. But when you talk about that, so any usual people who are going out in the morning, daytime, not in the night. Evening, usually open defecation happens with the women, but in the morning hours, it happens with the men. Some aged person, you ask, So what they will say? They will say very clearly, why should I use the toilet there? My hands, legs, everything is well, and I can go and happily take good air, and I can go and defecate wherever I like. There are the certain people, women in the house, they can't go out, so they will use the toilet. So the masculinity, how it promotes the open defecation, that we never tell. We talk about, we have a habit of everything put on our dignity. I don't know how. It is all on the women. The India is, we created an India, an illusion India, which is the dignity of the women is an actually dignity. What is the women dignity? Women wearing the kapda, that how they have to wear the kapda, how disciplined they have to manage, how they have to be there, and where they have to study, at what age they have to marry. So our whole dignity concept is only on the life of the, and we made a women as another category. So these two, the caste and patriarchy, very cunningly, very, very systematically we made and feel everybody happy. I request today, we must come out and talk about these two very ugly forms, which is actually making many people life as a hell. So that we have to deal very systematically, as Professor Sudarshan said, we have to work together also. It is not just a talk. When we don't work together, we will not learn each other what exactly we are. It is not transforming the society or anything. Actually, it is a transforming our own self and our own ideas. We don't even think about what are the problems we are facing, why it is all. So it is not today's or yesterday's problem we are dealing. Even if you go with the history, it is at least almost like a 4,000 years an institution, and there is a very clear evidences that 400 AD, from that onwards, there is a scavenging. And for this also very clear, Indians, we don't like to keep the shit inside the house, because we do welcome the Lakshmi to come to our houses during the auspicious time, particularly in the Diwali and we put the small steps on the staircase and ask exactly the Lakshmi to keep the foot there and come and enter into our house. We feel happy for that. We believe that it is good, fine enough. When Lakshmi, where she comes, the goddess of the well, and live, there you cannot keep the shit. That is what is an actual concept. So as an Indians, we cannot keep the toilet inside the house. So we have to keep that out, because where the Lakshmi stays, where the shit cannot keep. But later stages, it has changed. But there is no permanent, because the shit anyhow, the fecal matters will be, we are all carrying the fecal matters. There is no doubt, it is a fact. So that we have to put somewhere. So it is slowly we enter into the dry latrine system for the women. And later that some patients and everybody. And somebody who can't go out, later it institutionalized. And from 400 AD till now, still there is a scavenging happening in the country. And many reforms happen, many things. You must be knowing very clearly, even the Britishers, they have abolished the caste practice in 1843 and onwards. But they have not prohibited the manual scavenging, because they know that for them also it is a necessity. So they have not banned. But 1989 Atrocities Prevention Act. But 1843 itself, that actually is slavery, a form of the slavery, considered as untouchability, and they said that it can't go out. But manual scavenging, you see that after independence also, not even 1989, it went up to 1993. We realized that the scavenging is a form of an atrocity only in the 1993. And there also we said that because there is no sufficient the toilets, our concern is not the human beings who are carrying the shit. Our concern is actually to cater the citizens in a well, how to defecate very freely and feel happy. For that, actually, we formed a law. That law talks about the more toilets than the liberation of the people. In 2013 only, the another act has come. So why I am bringing this? Manual scavenging, whatever we discuss now, is not just as a social problem, it is also prohibited by the law. So in 1993, when you prohibited, and why it is still continuing? The law enforcement agencies, they are also having the same caste mindset. You go and ask anyone, they will say that what is there, it is not such a big deal. Because they don't feel that this is a very inhuman. So actually our problem is that once you feel this is a very inhuman and it is actually making the people life so difficult, you will definitely make some change. That feeling somewhere it is not happening and it is continuing. So what are the measures we have to take? The measures number one, the dry latrine cleaning wherever it is in Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Bihar, Jharkhand, Uttarakhand, few parts of Rajasthan, Maharashtra, and Jammu Kashmir, particularly in the Jammu and particularly in the Kashmir Valley, Jada, and Jammu also, of course, there are toilets. And in these places, there are the dry latrines still exist. Indian Parliament declares that there is no manual scavenging very recently. And Indian Parliament, the minister and the Prime Minister is struggling to announce manual scavenging free state past 3 years. We have made them to understand that there are the toilets still. They waited till but 2021, last month in the Parliament session, the minister announced that there is no manual scavenging in India. And it is a really shame that when our citizens still carry the human excreta, the minister comes and announces in the Parliament that there is no scavenging. Why the people are not coming out and talking about that? And second important thing is, past 5 years, nobody died due to the manual scavenging. That is another statement. You are all aware that very recently in Gujarat, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, and Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh, very recently, 3 days before, there was a sewage fatal deaths happened. We know that. We documented all such things. We have a data about almost 2,000 such deaths we documented. That does not mean that the 2,000 people only died. We documented 2,000. We collected the information, FIR, post-mortem report, like all evidences we have. Still, the government is denying. How do we actually deal that? How we have to make the government understand? And when they say that less government and more governance, we feel that there is something, great things are happening. But in my very simple opinion, government means actually the people. Government means the people. People someday they say that this government, who's well. I said that I am a government. When I cast my vote, I am a part of the government. I may be playing in a different role. As a voter, I have a driving seat and I can also drive. If majority drive, definitely that is the government. So when they said that less government, I also felt that this is something very magic word. So this some general school can only make me to understand less government means what. But now I understood, when you think the government means people, the less government means less people, less citizens concerns, and more governance means only benefit to the corporates. It is not for anybody. So I understand it like this. So they are openly coming and telling the deaths of the 2,000 people in the parliament, that very clearly denying is not. That can't be the less government. You're completely denying the people and their actually the life. Right to life with the dignity is then a fundamental right. So you are even not considering their life. When they die also, you are not counting. So this we have to take it very seriously, and we have to make the government understand. They can't bluntly come and say, make blank statements like this. And what are the forms of the remedies we can suggest? Because I will stop now to take some questions, then we can come back again. One is a number important thing is dry latrines wherever it is that we have to identify, demolish all or convert into the fresh. The women who is cleaning such dry latrines for the 30-40 rupees per month from one house, even now, maybe one roti or the two rotis from the house collecting. Such women must get maximum reparation, compensation, or you want to coin in some right word, you coin the right word, but for her, another 2 generations, she should not fall back. That is that we must take in a responsibility. Then second important is, there is a sewage and septic tank where it is all deaths are happening. There we must promote, or we must take in a step that full mechanization must. We should not allow any human being to just die like this in the sewage and septic tank. That is not good for the nation. And we are killing continuously and keeping quiet is not good. For our sake, for our benefit, for our health standards, we have the sewage system, and that actually making many people to come and sacrifice their life. And we say that we glorify them and we throw or we shower the flowers on them. Please don't shower any flowers on such. There is nothing to glorify. We have to stop. We have to prevent the deaths. There is no other alternative. Life is valuable, that I no need to say, because everybody has the life. How preciously we are protecting our life. We must see that our fellow human being, their life also. Then there is a sanitation sector where there must be a safety gear or protective gear. And definitely the government has to take the steps. And there are the women sweepers who are doing in the night shift. There is a safety. There are the many problems that we have to deal in separately. And there is now the big problem for them is a contractual labor system. On the contractual basis, they are appointing, and their rights and the salaries and the wages has completely gone down. So there should be a proper wages, and there is all kind of protective gear and safety gear must be for all the sanitation workers. This just for the one. And second is, there is a relief, there is a rehabilitation. Those two things the government has to take it from. And the Prime Minister must announce a special package for all the different kind of the people. Instead of coming and talking about the greatness of the work, there is no such greatness when somebody is carrying the garbage with the bare hands and coming and saying that you are my God. That is a very unfair. I want to close by saying very clearly one simple thing. In India, we have developed a kind of a spirituality in such a level where we are able to even connect with the God or goddesses. I do agree. I don't believe anything, but there are the people who has raised in a different way to connect with the God. But unfortunately, we are not connecting with our fellow human being who is just residing by the side of us. There we are completely got failed. So when we have so much of intellectuality, when we have so much of the Vasudhaika Kutumba, he has said very clearly, all those things, why can't we treat another human being as an equal human? Why we miss that? That is a very painful. So I always feel that definitely there is an equality, liberty. And of course, there is a society where there is a fraternity is 100%, which was also as a wish and the dream of the Professor Sudarshan. He started that work. So let us now come back from all whatever the things happened so far, but build a society where there is where we feel that we are all equal, and see that others' problems are also from our own eyes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have to say that, just to translate what you said in the lingo of academics, there is one of the most insidious forms of the exercise of power, which you described, is when you make the oppressed people think that the oppressor is a benefactor, right? This is not, this happens, as you said, people would say, "Ye to mera kaam hai, mera karma hai." To get human beings to think in that way is a very, very insidious form of the exercise of power. It just as it will not happen normally, naturally. It is a very, very conscious attempt to make a set of people think in that way, right? I mean, it's not only in the case of manual scavenging. I've seen this in Shivakasi, where parents are sending their children to work in the fireworks factory. They wake them up at 3 o'clock, put them on a bus at 4 o'clock, and then they have a photograph of the owner of the factory alongside Murugan and Shiva, and they worship him and think, but for this man employing our child, we will starve. Now, we are a society like this, where this is a very insidious form of exercise of power that we must, be conscious of and resist and fight. The other thing is that people are forced to learn helplessness, right? It is not as if people haven't struggled and said, I want to get out of this. I want a different life. I'm dreaming of something else. No, the entire institutional structure and framework defeats them. You go look for a job, the employment exchange says, "Oh, the fit job for you is your family job." And therefore people learn helplessness. They think, they give up. So that is why I think we need you. We need many more like you, and we need to be with you to overcome this helplessness. The oppressed must rise against the oppression. It's not necessarily translated into some person and then you say you hate the person, you want to kill the person or anything like that. It is a way of overcoming the oppression is to resist that insidious form of power, right? That we need to, and this is what I think as a university, as an educational institution, we have to get this sensitivity in every student to see this as the reality and to say this is wrong. I mean, to take a very, very clear, moral stance. So all this rationalization, glorifying it, Gandhiji said, in my next birth, I would not mind being born in a Bhangi family. Well, what? I mean, if you don't know what it is to be a Bhangi, and therefore you say, in my next life, I don't mind being born that. Now, if you only knew what it is, you wouldn't say that, right? So I think therefore this is calls for, I think the solution to this is not, parliament and lies being told in parliament, as you pointed out, but to create a new consciousness and a new generation. We are going to be a very young country. We don't want the youth of this country to carry all this, baggage that we have had to carry. How are we to unburden ourselves? So this is, it is as much, as you point out, it is as much a burden on the upper caste as it is on the ones who are oppressed. So this unburdening we have to do. Education means unburdening of that kind. So I'm grateful for you. And there may be some questions. I'll ask my colleague Shivangi to invite.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson, for a fantastic talk. And the Dean also framed a very important point about the insidiousness of power. So I'd like to get your thoughts on this. So this whole insidious form of exercise of power is what ultimately also made Ambedkar a very cynical man, right? I mean, so there is that famous moment where he, the writer of the Constitution decides to sort of take a religious way out by, converting to Buddhism and so on. How would you analyze the decision and like your understanding of that sort of a move? Clearly, you have not done that. You still keep a faith in the constitutional system. You're still struggling. So how do you manage? How did you manage to avoid that sort of outcome or cynicism? And how do you continue? And also, particularly at the time like this, when you have a government in power, which, as you say, sort of, less government, more governance type of government. I mean, that kind of a regime is in power. How do you continue in a situation like this? What keeps you going?
See, we know about the history. In the history, many things worse than the India, what we are facing, happen. But that is not forever. But basically, by human beings, we are all, everybody, we need a freedom. And nobody is ready for for any oppression or the suppression or a kind of a suppression situations to live for long. The people will realize, and I do believe more than anything, the people are wise. With the given circumstances, something they may make some decisions. That does not mean that the people will not realize. The people will realize, and moreover, I feel that I strongly believe within the constitutional framework, we can find the solution for the many things. Because there is still there is a hope within the constitution. We had 80-90 lakhs of the scavengers when we started. Now we have come almost like a 1.6 lakhs, and even that would be the lesser than that. But other forms of the scavenging is emerging. So which means what? We can really resolve certain problems within the constitutional framework. But when it is growing or because or whatever, in that process, again, people are also like a virus, how it is taking then a different mutation. The forms of the discrimination, untouchability also is taking in a different forms of the mutation. So we have to keep on actually to be conscious how we can be actually true human being. True human being is not a greatest person, somebody who achieved the very, very, no, there is nothing great. The true human beings are without harming, without making any discrimination, or without having the stigma or the heavy loads. They're all completely full loaded people. We are like a Agni, Prithvi, Sare missiles, like we are all full loaded with many things. We have to take out one by one, and we will be really free, feel free. For that status, we have to bring the people with the constitution, with the judiciary, with the administration, bureaucracy, and with the politics. Without actually entering into the politics, in the sense engaged with the politicians, you cannot make any changes. And manual scavenging also not a social problem. It is political in nature actually. All the problems political in nature, because we take the decisions by politics. Even health, COVID is a health problem. But how do we deal? You think that by vaccination, how much vaccination you have to take? Who has taken that? It is all political decisions. Lockdown what? It is a political decision. So the political decisions, how we can, that is what Ambedkar also said very clearly. The major key is then actually politics. Political power is the key. So that has to come to the hands of the more democratic people. Unfortunately, it is the key is with somebody else. So chabi agar wahan hai to that will be there. But Ambedkar, they can't say that is his cynicism or anything. He felt that he want to have there is a right to go for any religion. So there was no ban like now, and there is no DM order is required during that time. Otherwise, in the Nagpur, collector would have died to convert so many lakhs of the people at one day. So how many application forms that DM has to sign? So during that time, luckily it was not there. So that has to be happen, and it is say we should not think about who want to actually see that. And you think that there is some pressure on Ambedkar to go?
No, not pressure at all. I'm not saying pressure. I'm just saying, in a way, is he sort of giving up on a secular solution to the problem? Because as you say yourself, the problem is a hard one, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's an insidious exercise of power. So in a way, is he giving up on the hope of a secular solution? You have not given up. I can see that. But I wanted to understand your way, how you thought about that decision. I mean,
see, usually many people after certain age, we do become a more close to the spiritual. So there is it is not just religious, and it is also spiritual. There is one person called, his name is Chalam. He's a very famous writer of the feminist ideas in 18 something like. Towards the end, he went to the Raman Maharshi and he stayed there and he died there only.
I see. Okay.
So there is people can, but the ideas in what we talk under certain period, that will continue. Ambedkar, we look as an Ambedkar. I don't think Ambedkar as a Buddhist monk or something. That Ambedkar is that is his own personal Ambedkar. So I don't have any contradiction on that. Everybody has the freedom to choose whatever they want. If they want to dance, let them dance. They want to dance Kathak, I have no problem. Or the Bharatanatyam also, it's also good. Or somebody want to, like how the culture we take, religion also the same way, but we no need to give so importance, in my opinion, who belongs to what religion, what they practice. If somebody asks me to practice their religion, then there the problem starts. So you want to go in any religion, that somebody is gone. So I said that simple way. I want to understand Ambedkar also very simple way, because there are many volumes of the books to read, which I have not even touched much. So how can I quote? So I stopped very pleasantly. बराबर इतने Ambedkar से इतने बदलाव हो रहा है बराबर. So with this much of Ambedkar, so much of change is happening. That much is okay enough. But for me, my eye opener is the Ambedkar. Otherwise, as Professor Sudarshan may be knowing, I feel proud about my own community in KGF. That is called the Toti community. Toti is then a similar word to the Pangi in South India. So Toti community. So our people say that we are all illiterate, so we are cleaning. We are very lazy people. We don't do hard work, so we are cleaning. And we are very poor, so we are cleaning. These are the three things they made me to understand. So I started one thing is one small educational tuition coaches along with the actually Reverend Dr. Y. Moses. He initiated something which I started supporting along with him. So through education we can reach. So I used to start blaming or abusing people, our own people. You are not studying, you are useless, you are like. But Ambedkar said very clearly, say the people illiterates in this country more than 34-36%, but all are not scavengers. The poverty is more than the 40-48%. Don't believe in Niti Aayog statistics, but actually the truth is of the poverty so much. All poor are not cleaning the shit, but only particular section. Why? So that is what Ambedkar said. You are a scavenger not because you are a poor, you are illiterate, and you are something XYZ. You are born into the family that is an untouchable community. So that is attached. So you are there. I understood. Stop. And you made me a scavenger, not I have chosen a scavenger. So you have a responsibility. I started going to the civil society, requesting all the civil society people, you made me a scavenger, you put your hand also. Let us together, we come out of the problem. So putting one human being as a scavenger is also a problem. You are also actually failed to be a human being. So you must get your salvation. So your liberation is also linked with my liberation. It is not isolation, as very clearly Nelson Mandela, America junior, Martin Luther King said the linking of the liberation of the oppressor and oppressed. So it is a link. So we have to now come together and go ahead. And it is not a charity. And you are not doing a charity to me to come out, or you are not doing any kind of a gift, or you are not a great and you are giving a bowl to me. It is in a mutual process of achieving a human person.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank
Very
you.
well said. Any others? We have come to
That 2
time.
o'clock, sir.
Yes, yeah, I know. So, ரொம்ப வணக்கங்க, ரொம்ப நன்றி. Wonderful to hear you. And you know, when we for 2 years we've had no students on this campus, but when we get the students, you must come and spend time with us, interact with them, because as I said, we all have an obligation towards another generation. You know, forget, you know, the past is what it is, but new India is in the making, and we want that vision that you have lived for to be inculcated in young people. And we can only do that if you come and, you know, we join hands. So we look forward to that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For joining
you.
us.
Thank you.
sir.
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.